Hey there, everybody. James here. And today I want to take some time to talk about how to build your ideal luxury watch collection. And this is about you building yours. And I think by showing you a little bit with mine, maybe it'll give you some insight in thinking about it, how you can build yours. And there's a lot of conversation around this in the watch community, around how to build your perfect 2 watch collection or 3 watch collection or 5 or 10, or how to spend 10,000 to build your ideal watch. Like there's a lot of those videos out there, and I think that I approach it a little bit differently. And that's one of the beauties of the watch world and the community, in my view, is that there's so many different valid perspectives around building a great collection. Because the reality is nobody needs this. Nobody needs a watch like this. We all can tell time with our phone. We can all have a calendar on our phone. We can pull up our web browser and pull up Google Calendar, and we can see what we need to see right there. So the reality is this is a hobby. It's for fun. And from a financial perspective, there's a balance here between getting the pieces that you want and not putting yourself in a tough financial position. And so I'm going to talk through a little bit around my journey, because I think it's going to give you an idea of some of the things that I've thought through as I've gone, and candidly, again, having made some mistakes as well. Like I think that no one goes through this unscathed without having mistakes, or buying a watch that they didn't like, or maybe getting rid of something that they shouldn't have gotten rid of. So just sharing a little bit about some of the things that I've considered along the way here. So I have this piece first, so this is my Rolex Sky Dweller. I have it on the rubber B strap here because I love the color aesthetic of the navy with the blue dial. But for me, this piece, I had looked at it from afar for a long time. I had liked watches, and I wore Movado. Fossil was my first one. I wore Movado for years. And, so Rolex was really, for me, hitting an age milestone for me was, okay, when I turn this age, I would love to get myself a nice Rolex because of the brand association that I had, because of the design aesthetic. We'll talk a little bit about that. You'll see I have all blue in my collection. But it's really about just that brand association and seeing it as an accomplishment and achieving something in your life that is meaningful to you. And that's a lot of what this piece was. Certainly the function too. I mean, having the time, the date, the annual calendar along the edge here, and then the GMT in the middle. But I think that the technology piece of it too, with the ring command, having the mobile bezel, that turns, and that being a part of the functionality of the watch. So a little bit of technology aspect of it too, all factored in. And me being kind of a design, an aesthetic person, I love the symmetry of it, the clean look of it, and the modern, look and feel. So that's a little bit on Rolex there. Next, we have Omega. And Omega, for me, represents a lot with value. Similar to Rolex, Omega is associated with a lot of, athletes, and obviously the sponsor of the Olympics. And, I grew up watching a lot of sports. And so I think both of those brands, from just an association perspective, I knew I wanted in the collection. And as you can see here, again, it's blue. So I think that the versatility of a piece like this, where it's, okay, I have a time, I have a date, I have an independently adjustable hour hand, which is nice. So I could use it for travel if I want. And then I've got this kind of versatile, blue strap. Because again, I'm not a big fan of factory bracelets in general. I will tend to go strap. For the most part. But again, for me, this was all about value. It's hard to find a watch that goes through what they do with the Matos certification, and creates the accuracy that something like this has for the price point. It's just hard to find. Obviously Grand Seiko is changing the game now with spring drive. That's a whole different conversation. But, as far as what you pay for and what you get, it's a pretty amazing value watch for me. And so Omega is just another great versatile piece that I definitely wanted in the collection, of course, in blue. Next, I have this piece, and this is the Reuter DR02. And one thing with watches that also happens is we build connections through watches. At least I certainly have. And, for some of you who've been around the watch space for a while, I'm sure you have maybe seen, heard about, Watchbox, which is now the 1916 company. And Tim Masso has been one of the folks in the community that's been making luxury watch reviews for a long, long time. And so for me, that was something that I ran across early on. And so, then, later on, getting into a watch group with some other enthusiasts that were kind of, big influenced by him. And then this became available. We had this group watch that was around for a second. And yeah, there's a little bit of a story behind it, because it was also the year that I was diagnosed with cancer. And so initially I was really excited about it, put in my request for one, and then had to put it on pause because I knew that I would have, medical bills and things that I would need to prioritize. And, so then the year later, when everything was resolved and, thank goodness the cancer was gone, reached back out to Dan. And, if you don't know Dan Reuter, he is an amazing guy. And it's awesome with these independent brands that when you send them an email, the person responding is the person who's making the watch. It's not a customer service line at a big group watch brand. You're literally getting that person. And so that was really impressive to me. And that is a little bit of the story behind this watch. So it's the only chronograph that I have in my collection currently. We'll talk about that in a second. But again, blue dial. I got this separate strap. The factory one is similar to the dial color with white stitching, which also looks really nice. But I like the slightly darker aesthetic on this Reuter. Next, we got to talk about this guy, because this is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Ultra Thin Perpetual Enamel, and this was a 100-piece limited edition that was released in 2019. And so I think for me, the story here is the craftsmanship and the exclusivity of the watch, because I've looked around quite a bit, a lot of different watches, and you don't see stuff like this. I mean, there's like Breguet has some interesting guilloche that they do on some of their dials. There are other brands obviously, but when you don't get this combination a lot where you have guilloche and enamel over the top of it. So Jaeger-LeCoultre for me really stands a little bit a cut above most brands, just because they have so much to their watchmaking repertoire, if you will. They're known as the watchmaker's watchmaker because of the fact that they provided movements to a lot of the other high-end brands. But now, as they stand today, they just continue to make some really interesting limited types of pieces. And again, this one being a 100-piece limited, I definitely jumped at it when it came along. So so definitely, I think the craftsmanship here, the precision of the engineering and the design, and just what actually goes into making a watch like this, with a perpetual calendar, with two different types of guilloche, with enamel, and then the moon phase, the age of the moon, phase of the moon, very, very cool. And it's just spectacular. And so I think that both of those elements went into my decision to pick up this watch. And it wasn't the first JLC that I've had. If you looked back, I had the Master Ultra Thin Moon in black and really enjoyed it until I saw this piece. And that's kind of been a theme, is continuing to look for things that are exclusive, a little off the beaten path. I wasn't necessarily planning on the high complication of a perpetual calendar. I really liked the moon phase, but after having had this one for about a year, I will never get rid of it. I mean, it's just unbelievable, and there's so much about it that I love. So that's the JLC, and then the last one, and this is my most recent pickup. Some of you may have seen it because I did the review on the channel when I had the bracelet, but of course, as you know, I always go to the strap on this. So this is the Crador. This is a Signo. It's a thermocompensated quartz movement. See if I can get some fingerprints or things off the dial here. But so this piece really for me represents what an entry-level watch could be for anybody. Like, this is a spectacular piece. It's insanely accurate. I think it's like a few seconds of deviation per year is like what it's rated to. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And it's everything you need. I mean, it's a simple time three-hander watch. You can see that it's moving. It's got the, great Zaratsu polishing on the hands, the indices, and the case. So really fantastic. It's thin. it's not water resistant per se, you know. So I mean, you don't want to like dunk it in a swimming pool or anything like that. But it's water resistant enough where, you know, you're not, if you're washing your hands or things like that, you're not going to bother it. So to me, again, going back a little bit to the value, but I think even on the entry level end, I mean, it's hard to beat a piece like this for a couple $1,000s. And the dial, it actually caught my attention because it looked like the Mount Iwate dials that Grand Seiko has. And I had the opportunity to meet Joe Kirk recently at a Grand Seiko event. And, you know, he called out that it's actually, there's a piece called the Katana that's red that has a similar pattern to it. That's pretty good. You can see it there. And I've also seen like a black dial Grand Seiko that has a similar kind of feel. So, but anyway, you know, I mean, this to me is like, it's simple, it's aesthetically pleasing, it's beautiful, and it's Crador, which is, you know, kind of Seiko's high-end brand. So you still get that really nice, luxurious design profile. So in talking about the different considerations here, I mean, you've heard a lot of them, right? Everything from accomplishments, milestones, you know, a little bit of brand association, you know, versatility, value, craftsmanship, all those things. And the other thing for me that I think is relevant is I don't like the idea of spending, you know, we already spend a bunch of money on these watches, right? I mean, no one needs these things. We're spending money because it's a hobby. And I don't like the idea of having more than one watch that does the same thing. So that's also a theme in my collection. And, you know, I'm about 4 years in here, so maybe this will change at some point. But really looking at it, everything that's here is going to have a different function. And that to me is a big important piece of the puzzle, because I don't want to have, you know, 6 chronographs. I don't want to, nor do I need 6 chronographs. You know, I haven't crossed the bridge yet of being in a place where I can just, you know, decide to buy watches because I like the design and the functionality is neither here nor there. Because really, a chronograph to me is probably the least useful complication on a watch. And so I think there's a big piece of this for me, which is I want the variety in the collection as well. You know, so things that I'm looking for as I go forward, like I've Grand Seiko, right? I love Grand Seiko, and I've seen some Grand Seikos that I really would like that are just simple 3-hand date watches. But then I come back to, okay, but I already have a piece in the collection that's doing that, and that's my Omega. And so what I'm really thinking about a lot as I go forward here is what else do I not have in the collection? And I think, you know, for me, things that come to mind are, you know, it would be great to have a tourbillon watch. You know, I'm really looking at the Ulysse Nardin. I'm blanking on the name now, but there's a UN tourbillon. It's the Marine tourbillon, I think, in blue that also has, you know, a Grand Faux enamel dial. You know, there's like going to the real high end, you know, Patek Philippe has some great world timers. You know, that's a complication that I don't have yet. I got rid of my Yachtmaster 2 when I got my JLC. And so I don't have my countdown timer anymore, which is sad because I really loved it. And so I just think about, you know, what else can I add from that perspective? Because again, I don't need, you know, 4 watches that are just 3-handers with a simple time and date. So I guess those are the things that I would maybe, I don't know, just consider as you're thinking about your collection, is what do you already have in it? What else do you need from a functional standpoint? And do you want, I mean, who knows, maybe you love having simple time date watches. I mean, they're very practical. They're probably the most functional piece, you know, of most watches is that, you know, if you're traveling, obviously something like a Sky Dweller makes a lot of sense. So you can keep track of your local time and your reference time at the same time. You know, so think about what you actually do day to day in your life and how you can use that functionality. Because that's, again, the beauty of the watch world is there's lots of different perspectives. They're all valid, and whatever you like is what you should buy. Don't worry about what's on the hype machine, because if that was the case, everyone would own, you know, a Patek Nautilus 5711 and a Rolex Daytona, and I don't have either of those pieces, nor do I really want to. And so I think that's the biggest thing I would say is, you know, find what matters most to you in watch collecting, in brand, in aesthetics and theme. Again, all my watches are blue, and that will probably stay that way. The only one that I'm considering going outside of that would be the Yachtmaster 2, looking at the white gold version, that has the platinum bezel, because that one's really special. But other than that, it's like I like the theme, and I plan to continue with the theme. And so that's what I would ask you to consider. There's no right or wrong about this, but have some semblance of theme to it. Find how you're going to make those decisions. And again, especially from a financial perspective, make that matter to you, because that's important too. So I always share at the end of every video, I hope you get out of watches what you want to get out of watches. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it gave you some thoughts around collecting and what your next piece might be. And I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you later. Bye.